Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya Yato Anvayaditaratascha Artheshu Abhigyaswarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye Muhyanti Yatsurayah Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Sargo Mrisha Dhamna Svena Sada Nirastakuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Nigamakalpataror Galitam Phalam Shukamukadam Mritadrava Sanyutam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukaha. We now enter the 12th and the last skandha of Srimad Bhagavatam. We have completed 11 skandhas, and with the 11th skandha we completed the entire Krishna Avatar. Now 12th skandha, the last skandha begins, and it will wrap up the entire Bhagavatam, what comes after Bhagavatam, and what is the various effects of reading Bhagavatam and all the rest. So 12th Skandha begins the first chapter. Parikshit asks a question first. He says, O great Shuka, after Krishna left the earthly realm, what happened to earth and what will happen? Because as we know, this happened only in Parikshit's lifetime. Parikshit in fact was saved by Krishna, and after that Krishna left earth a few years after that. So Parikshit is asking what will happen after Krishna has left, and now what will happen to earth, who will all rule this earth. So Shuka Brahmam gives a huge list of kings. He starts with a king called Puranjaya, and then he goes on and he talks about how righteousness falls away, and therefore the lines of kings are all disrupted by various assassinations and so on. So first line is ended by the assassination of a minister of the king, who installs his own king, his own son as the king, and they rule for some time. That's called the Pradyotanas, and then from them follows a different dynasty called Shishunagas, and then after that, after many years, comes forth the great Maurya dynasty. So this is what is famous for Chanakya. So it is said that Chanakya will come. This is all now talking about future that is yet to happen. So Shuka Brahmam says, after various dynasties rule, then Chanakya, who is a great scholar, he authors the great Chanakya Niti, the way of dharma, the way of ruling properly, and so on. It's a great treatise. So this Chanakya installs the king Chandragupta, and that's the Maurya dynasty, and they will rule for many generations. And then again there is an assassination where one of the generals of the Mauryas kill the king, and that dynasty is ended, and then the general installs his son, and this goes on. And then that leads to another dynasty called Kanvas, who are not very smart, the Kanva dynasty. And then after some time in their dynasty, their own servant kills the master, and then his dynasty is installed. So we can see how it gives an account of the future of Kali Yuga, which is now the history we have studied of the last few thousand years, where there has been so many dynasties of kings and so many brutal betrayals, assassinations, treacheries, and so on. All of this is listed here with various names and various dynasties. So in this chapter, which is only an account of all the kings who are yet to rule Kali Yuga, and the various sons and the various dynasties that come forth, each due to some act of treachery or betrayal by which a new dynasty comes into being. They rule for some time and then they are betrayed, and this is how it is continued, and that is how Shuka Brahmam describes this. He talks about the Magadhas, who are also another dynasty, and they are also evil-minded and powerful. And then as Kali Yuga advances, he says everyone becomes fallen. They stop doing their purificatory rites. They start killing children, even they start killing cows. They covet other people's wealth and wives. There is various kinds of evils such as lying, being unfaithful, unrighteous, and all the rest, people sucking the blood of their own people, the government that is. And this is the way Kali Yuga proceeds, he says. And with this, the first chapter ends. It's a chapter that is only an account of all the various kings and rulers who all only share one thing in common, which is that none of them rule righteously. They all simply rule for the sake of their own attachments and not for the welfare of the people. So we enter the second chapter of the 12th Skandha, and here Shuka Brahmam details further the evils of Kali Yuga in great graphic description. He says, due to the all powerful time, all good qualities go away in Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga begins when Krishna left earth, and it continues. So he says righteousness, truthfulness, purity, forgiveness, compassion, bodily strength, memory, and even length of life, all of these will decline. And then he says, and in words which are so prophetic of even now, and in fact, especially now, he says, wealth alone will be the criterion of people's greatness. Everyone will be measured based on their wealth, and might or strength alone is the factor that will determine righteousness. People will do whatever they want if they have might. Personal liking will be the only deciding factor for choosing one's life partner, spouse. That is, there will be no consideration for any other quality in terms of the family or in terms of the values, but only simple whimsical liking. And therefore there is many cases of marriages not working and various instabilities in social life. Trickery is the only motivation in business. Sexual delight is the only criterion for men and women. And sacred thread is the only mark of Brahmins. So the Brahmins who wear sacred thread but do not know the spirit of it, do not follow the spirit of it, simply wear it externally, that will be the only mark. External marks will be the only mark of ashramas too. So sannyasa, for instance, people changing robes but inwardly full of attachment. Justice will be corrupted. Scholarship will be only measured by how well one speaks. And any distant tank or pond will be considered holy. People will start growing long hair and in various whimsical ways as fashion. Eating to one's sense gratification will be the great joy. So we see all these things pretty much happening and only accelerating. And everyone uses their skill only in supporting their family. And virtuosity is only used for gaining fame and wealth and their own attachments. And people who are completely unqualified become rulers, become the kings, or become the even the democratically elected leaders are all unfit, but they only come to power through various corrupt mechanisms, and people are not cared for, and therefore there is various climate calamities that happens, drought and famine and cold and heat and snowfall and rain. People experience starvation in many places. Lifetime reduces in many places. People's health reduces. Religiosity is completely gone. Rulers are like thieves who are corrupt. There is no truthfulness and only thievery among rulers. Everyone is only interested in their own attachments, and all their activities are only to further their attachments to wealth, family, and so on, and not for the welfare of the society or for the greater good. So this will be the state of Kali Yuga, very dark description that Shuka Brahmam gives, and it will only get worse and worse. And he says when it reaches its worst, when it reaches its very bottom, that's when the Supreme Lord Vishnu, the soul of the universe, will again reappear, and this will be the avatar of Kalki. He says Bhagavan will appear as Kalki in the house of a great being, a great Brahmana called Vishnu Yasha in the village of Sambhala. He says Sambhala Grama Mukyasya Brahmanasya Mahatmanah Bhavane Vishnu Yashasah Kalkihi Pradur Bhavishyati. So this is the prophecy of the avatar of Kalki to be born to Vishnu Yashas in the village of Sambhala when things have hit the absolute rock bottom. And he will then ride across the whole world with great power, and he will destroy millions of people who are corrupt. So just as Krishna appeared and reduced the burden on earth, and then Kali Yuga started, and then Kali Yuga again, the burden keeps on increasing due to evil, corrupt ways of people. And when it again reaches its worst point, it is prophesied that Bhagavan will again reappear as Kalki, as we saw, and he will remove this burden, destroy millions of people, and thereby bring forth order again. And after that, a very auspicious era will come forth again called Satya Yuga, where people will be pure again, the land will be flourishing, everyone will enjoy the beautiful breeze of the fragrance of Kalki and the benevolence of Kalki and the righteousness that will prevail because of Kalki. And because of that, everybody will have children who are very pious too. And when Kalki appears, thereby there will be a very sattvic or virtuous disposition. And he prophesies as that will happen when the moon, the sun, and the Jupiter all come together in one zodiacal house, and the Pushya constellation is in the ascendant. So, for those who know astrology, this may give some indications. There are many who have made many calculations, and they are all over the place. But the essence is the prophecy that when these stars are in the same house and in a particular astrological position, Kalki will appear, and that will be the end of the atrocities of Kali Yuga and a mark of the new beginning. So, here the important thing to note is, beyond the specifics, is how the nature of time is cyclical. So, even after Krishna himself comes, re-establishes Dharma, completely removes all the wicked and goes away, again, inevitably, unrighteousness rises, and it rises more and more and more till it becomes completely unbearable. People are suffering, earth is suffering, the climate is haywire, there is all kinds of calamities everywhere. And then at that time, again, it is said that Kalki appears, and then again order is established, dharma is established. So we can easily surmise that again the same cycle will continue, wherein it will descend again into chaos, into unrighteousness. So the essence of this here is that the world is always of this nature. Anyone who dreams of utopia here is always only dreaming, because no matter what happens, it is going to be coming back to the same point, to the same cycle, and it goes on and on. Therefore, there is any kind of attachment, if there is any kind of attachment to a very perfect kingdom or a very perfect society, one has to recognize that that will always be short lived, And true freedom, therefore, remains not in creating the perfect society, which is always ephemeral, but in simply being not attached to anything and living completely free of the sense of me. So that's the main essence. So Shuka Brahmam then concludes this chapter by saying, this is how Kali Yuga will proceed. This is how all evils will come as I have described. And this is how Kalki will come and set it right. Know that all this begins the day Krishna has left earth. After he left, instantly people started taking delight in sin. There is all kinds of unrighteousness that rose right after. In fact, people say, he says that the very day, not even the day, the very moment Krishna left earth, Kali Yuga began, and it goes on for thousands of years until, as already described, it reaches the rock bottom and again set right. So this is the essence of Kali Yuga and of time itself. So Shuka Brahmam concludes by stating, this is the destiny of all kings. So I have given you an account of all the various kings who will come to rule and how every one of them, caught in attachment, is only living for petty gains and nobody remembers them. So he says people come and people go, all these kings come and go, but there is no one who remembers them. They are all simply consigned to the trash can of history, especially because all these kings, all these rulers, they are all only interested in how can I ensure that my son or my grandson or my family can enjoy the power and wealth after me. They are only interested in creating various political dynasties rather than selflessly working for the welfare of people. And because that's the nature of these kings, he says the earth simply consumes them. They not recognizing that they are attached to the body which is temporary and to their relations which are all temporary. And because of that, their whole accounts are simply reduced to one sentence in a history book and nobody remembers them beyond that. That is the nature of all the rulers of Kali Yuga, and that is how it will unfold. So, with this, he ends this chapter, the second chapter of the 12th Skandha, narrating the destiny of everyone who is attached and thereby caught in pettiness and completely not realizing the purpose of human life. And this is how Kali Yuga unfolds until Kalki will come and set it right, is the prophecy given in this chapter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.